In this video we're going to look at variables and how we can use them when we're making our games. So a variable is a way to store information in a computer's memory where it can be used later by the program. So quite often a variable is a value that can change in a game. And in our case here, we're going to use variables for lives and scores and timers. So let's have a look at some examples. So here we've got a Frogger or Crossy Road style game, and you can see that there are some variables in this game. So I'll just start playing the game, and you'll see at the start of the game I've got 5 lives and also I've got a score. So if I start to move over here and I get hit by the combine harvester, then it plays a sound, it sends me back to the start, but more importantly for us here, I lose a life. In this healthy eating style game, you'll see that I've got a score. I've actually called it health, but it's still the score, and I've also got a timer that's going to count down. So if I start this game, you'll get the idea.
Uh-oh.
So let's start by having a look at how we can make a score. So in this particular example, I've got a game where I've got 2 Space Invaders here, and they're going to move backwards and forwards, and if I shoot one of them then they'll disappear. It plays a sound, but there is no score. So what I'm going to do is go to the variables blocks over here, click on variables, and I'm going to make a variable. So I'm going to make this variable. I'm clicked on this rocket here. I'm going to say make a variable, and I'm going to call it score. So that's pretty easy. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that when the game starts, our score is 0. So to start with then, I need to get the block for when the game starts. So that's going to be under events, and it's going to be when green flag clicked. Now I could put this code with another block, but I'm just doing it as a separate block so that you can see this on its own. And I want to set the score to 0, so I need to go back to my variables, and quite simply what I need to do is I need to get the block that says set score to 0, and you'll see because I've made a variable over here I've got this that says score. I can put this anywhere that I want on the screen, and I can change the readout by right clicking on it, maybe go to large readout, but it doesn't tell me what that is, it just gives me the number. So I'm going to leave it as a normal readout there. So the next thing that I need to do is change the score. So at the moment the score, when I click the green flag, the score sets to 0. But if I hit any of these rockets, then nothing happens. If I just press play and then go up there and then hit one of them, you'll see that my score is still 0. So I need to make sure that my score actually changes. So the way that we're going to do that is we need to make sure that when the spaceship is hit by the rocket, the score is going to go up by 1. We're going to change the score by 1. So at the moment I'm on the rocket, and there isn't any code here to say when the alien is hit by a rocket or when the alien is hit by a laser. So this code here is what happens if the enemy laser hits my rocket. So that's the wrong piece of code. So what I need to do is go find one of my invaders. So if I click on it here, you'll see that I've got some code for my invader, and this tells me what happens when it gets hit by the laser. So that's when this alien gets hit by the laser from my rocket. And at the moment it says it plays a sound and then it hides it, it goes away. So what we need to do is we need to just simply add a change score by 1. So if I come along here, in variables, I've got change score by 1. So I need to make sure I'm on the right variable, so I'm on scores. And I'm just going to simply drop that in there. So now when I play the game and I hit it, it will change the score by 1. What I've got to remember is I've got more than one alien in this game, so I've got another one over here. So I need to also do that for this one as well, otherwise I won't get any points if I hit that one. Now that's another reason why, when you're making games like this, get one NPC working properly, and then you can just drag the code on top and drop it onto the other one, and then it will work. So let's give it a quick test, see if I can hit it. There we go. And you'll see that the score's gone up by 1. Okay, so the next stage now is optional really. What I can do is I can make it so that in any game that I'm playing, when I've scored the number that I want to score, I get a message to say that I've won, or go to level 2 if you're making a multi-level game. So in this game here, I've only got 2 aliens and they're worth 1 point each, I've decided. So if I destroy both aliens, so if I clear the screen, I want to get a message. So if I clear the screen, I will have scored 2 points, 1 for each alien. So I want to make myself a little message that says, if you score 2 points, then you get a message saying you've won. So if we just break that down then, so as usual, I'm going to start with the green flag. So when the green flag's clicked, and then, as in so many examples, I'm going to get a forever loop because we keep asking this question again and again and again, so that's very important. And then I'm getting an if-then block, and I want it to say, if your score is 2, then say you've won the game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to operators here, this green block, and you'll see it says equals, it says blank equals 50, and I want this to say if score equals 2. So very simply I can get rid of 50 and put in 2. But I can't just write the word score in there because Scratch won't know what I'm talking about. It won't know what that means. So what I'm going to do is go to variables and get hold of this orange button here that actually says score on it. So that's my actual variable, and put it in there. And if I drag that up and put that in that irregular hexagon, I can now get a message. So I'm going to go to looks, and just for now I'm just going to get a message. So you could say it plays some music, it says well done, go to level 2, you could do all sorts of things. I'm just going to say you win, and then I think I'll have an exclamation mark, you win. So let's give this a bit of a test. Click the green flag and off we go. So that's 1. I've missed it, sorry about that, I'll try to get it this time. 2, and it says you win. Now another variable that you can use in games is a timer. So you'll see in this game it says time left 0. So if I press the green flag, then it actually gives me 10 seconds and it starts to count down. When it gets to 0, then it's going to stop the game. So if we have a quick look at how we do this, if I come over to variables, then the first thing I need to do is make a variable, and you'll see I've already done it. I've made a variable that's called time left, so you could call it timer or time left. So I've just gone to make a variable, I've left it for all sprites, and I've called it time left. So I've already done that, and that's on the screen. So the first thing that I need to do is when the game starts, I need to tell the people playing the game how much time you've got at the start of the game. So at the start of the game here, you'll see that I've got this block here. If I just move this out of the way, you'll see it says set time left to 10. So I've got a block like set health, and I've just changed it to the other variable that I've made, set time left, and I've changed it to 10. So I've put that up here with another block. So I've set my health to 50, so I get a score of 50 at the start, and then I get 10 seconds okay at the start of the game. Okay, so the next thing that I need to do is I want to make this counter count down. So you can see that in this block here. So what I've done is I've used a forever block. So when the game starts, it keeps doing this forever, and it says change time by -1. Okay, so the time goes down by 1 second. So if I did that just like that, if you watch the time closely here, I start the game and then it goes almost straight down to 0. So what I've got to do is I've got to use this wait 1 second block, which is in the control, and I can get that from the top there, and I've popped that in here. So forever, change the time by -1 and then wait 1 second, and then it will change it by another second and keep going. So you'll see it now counts down 1 second at a time. Okay, good. So the last thing that I need to do is make sure that it stops when I get to 0. So that's this block of code up here. So you'll see again when the game starts, when the green flag's clicked, do this forever. So as usual, I've got my repetition there. And then I've got this piece of code here that says if then. So I want it to say if the time equals 0. So you'll see I've got that here. So what I've done there is I've gone to operators and I've got this equals block. And then I've gone to variables and I've got my timer block, which I call time left, and dragged it in there. So remember, you can't just write timer or time left in there because Scratch won't understand it. It needs to be the actual variable. So I need to grab that from there. So time left equals 0. So I'll just throw this example away now and put that in there. And then I want the game to stop. So that will keep going until I run out of time. So I could give a message saying, you've run out of time, but I won't. So you'll see when it gets to 0, then the game stops. It stops everything from falling down, and that's it. Now, an optional thing that you can do in a game is you can get the game to tell you your final score at the end. Now, in this game, I'm already displaying my score on the screen, so I might not want to do this, but there are lots of different games where you might want to actually get a character to say what the score is at the end. So I'm going to do it in this game anyway. So you'll see we've got this code we've just looked at. So it stops when you've run out of time, and I also want it to say your score was. So I'm going to get this block that says say hello. And I can't really put your score was 5 for 2 seconds in here because that won't work. It won't be able to tell me what my score was. I don't know what it's going to be and it's going to change, which is why I need to use my variable. So I need to say your score was the score variable. So this is where it just gets a little bit more complicated. I need to go to operators and I use this one called join. So we're going to join 2 bits of writing together. So this is actually called concatenating, but that's just an extra piece of information. I'm going to put your, in this block here, your score was in the first one. So at the moment it says your score was banana. That's not very good. So what I want to do is I want to go to variables and get hold of my score. So in this game my score is called health. So yours might be called just score. So your score was whatever your score was there. So it's going to read it out. And then I'm going to put all this in the bit that says hello. So it's going to say that for 2 seconds. So your score was your score, and it will read it out. So if I put this in, put it before the stop all. So I don't want to put it after stop all because it won't read it. And then I'm going to click the green flag, just let it count down for 10 seconds and quickly play the game. So I'm on 80. Oops, just lost a point. 4, 2 seconds left, 1, and then it gets to the end and it tells me what my score was for 2 seconds. So obviously I can get it to read that out for longer if I want to, but that's how you get your game to read the score on the screen. So finally, let's have a look at lives. So lives work very, very much in the same way as scores do. The main difference is with lives that the lives count down, whereas the score counts up. So at the start of this game, I'm starting it with 5 lives. So just like we did earlier, we went to variables and you make a variable, and you can see I've already made a variable called lives. I'll just click make a variable and then I've made a variable called lives. And you'll see the first thing is I need to make sure that at the start of the game I am going to have 5 lives. So if you see this piece of code over here, you'll see that at the start of the game it says set lives to 5. Okay, so now we've got 5 lives. So if I press this green flag and just stop it, you'll see that the lives are set to 5. What I want to happen now is if my rocket touches any of these bats, then we're going to lose a life. So what I could do is I could make some code and use some selection to say if the spaceship touches this rocket, it loses a life. If the spaceship touches this if the spaceship touches this bat, it loses a life. If the spaceship touches this bat, it loses a life. And if it touches this bat. But it might be easy to do it the other way around. I'm going to go to this bat and I'm going to say that the lives go down by 1 if the bat touches the rocket. the bat touches the spaceship. So you'll see I've got the code here for this particular bat here. If I click on it, you'll see it's this one. So forever, if you're touching the spaceship, it's going to change the lives by -1, and it's going to play a sound. So you'll see that it's very important here. I've got change lives by -1. I'm not using set lives to -1 because that would just change the lives from whatever they are to -1. So it's important that you use change lives by -1. Okay, so the last thing for lives that we need to do is make sure that we know what happens if you run out of lives and you get to 0. So you'll see this code that I've got on the screen here is the piece of code that we need. So the bit that we did earlier, we've set the lives to 5 at the start, and then it's this particular piece here. So if the lives equal 0, we say game over. And you'll see this piece of code, I've explained this a little bit earlier about how to say what your score was. So that's under the scores part of the video, and then it says stop all. So let's just have a look at some of this code. So you've got the forever, which is pretty straightforward. We use that to keep checking that if this is true or not. So if the lives equals 0, so as I've shown in some other videos, I need to go to operators. So I should say, as I've shown earlier in this video where we talked about scores. So I go to operators and go to equals 50 and change it to 0. And then I go to variables and I go to lives and get hold of the one that actually says lives. So it's no good writing the word lives in there. It has to be the variable lives. And then what I can do is I can pop this back inside there. So if the lives equal 0, then say game over, and then we want to stop all. So this is an extra bit where you read out what the lives are. So that is how to actually stop the game when you get to 0 lives.